My name is Alara Winslow, and I've spent 32 years being professionally invisible. While my sister Sienna collected trophies like breathing, I collected silence. She was the golden child who could do no wrong. I was the question mark nobody bothered to answer. Growing up in the Winslow household was like living in a museum dedicated to Sienna's greatness. Every wall displayed her achievements, pageant crowns, honor roll certificates, newspaper clippings of her latest accomplishments, my own small victories, a published poem here, a volunteer award there, disappeared into the void of family indifference faster than morning mist. "That's nice, dear," became my mother's standard response to anything I achieved, usually followed by, "Did you hear about Sienna's latest scholarship?" The pattern was so predictable it became a cruel joke. When I graduated summa cum laude, they forgot to attend the ceremony because Sienna had a violin recital. When I won a statewide poetry competition, they scheduled a family dinner to celebrate her engagement to a finance executive from the prestigious Whitmore family. The wedding invitation never came. I learned about it from a neighbor's Facebook post, a stunning photo of Sienna in ivory silk, surrounded by 200 guests who weren't me. When I called to ask why, my mother's voice carried that familiar tone of patronizing patience. "We thought you'd be more comfortable staying home. Honey, you know how these events can be." What she meant was, "You don't fit our picture-perfect narrative." So I stopped trying to fit. While Sienna networked at charity galas and spa weekends with her new in-laws, I disappeared into the work that actually mattered. I founded a non-profit from a cramped basement office in Sacramento, focused on education in underserved communities. No glamour, no social media campaigns, just results. Within 5 years, we had mobile learning labs in 4 states. Within 7, we were quietly revolutionizing how rural schools approached science education. Major publications featured our work, but I never sent the articles home. My family had made it clear, my accomplishments were invisible unless they served Sienna's story. The irony was delicious. While she played the part of the perfect daughter-in-law, I was building something that would outlast every superficial connection she'd ever made. 3 years ago, everything began to shift. I was invited to speak at a small gala in Denver, nothing flashy, just a gathering of people who understood that real change happens in quiet rooms, not on red carpets. After my presentation about sustainable education models, a woman approached me near the refreshment table. She was elegant in that understated way that screams old money: pearls, slate blue silk, silver hair pulled back with architectural precision. When she smiled, it was like being seen by someone who actually understood the language I'd been speaking my whole life. "Your work is remarkable," she said, her voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that doesn't need volume. "Lean operations, genuine impact. I can tell the difference." She introduced herself simply as Celia, and for 15 minutes, we talked about logistics, accountability, and sustainability models with the kind of depth that's rare at these events. Before leaving, she touched my arm gently. "I wish more people understood the kind of work you're doing." I didn't think much about it afterward. Just another networking conversation. Another stranger who appreciated substance over style. I had no idea that this woman would become the key to everything that happened next. 3 weeks ago, I received an invitation to a high-profile charity event hosted by the Whitmore Foundation. The name meant nothing to me, but one of our board partners insisted I attend. "Trust me," she said, "it'll be worth your time." I arrived at the Crestmore Grand without expectations. The venue whispered wealth in every corner, all velvet and crystal, and the kind of restraint that only unlimited budgets can buy. I'd been in similar rooms before, but never as myself. Tonight felt different. My dress was black, perfectly tailored, understated but undeniable. I wasn't there to dazzle. I was there to be impossible to ignore. And then I saw her. Sienna stood near the champagne tower like she owned the entire room, her cream satin gown catching the light like armor. Her laugh had that manufactured quality I remembered too well, performed charm for an audience that didn't know the difference. When her eyes found mine across the room, her reaction was pure instinct. She rolled her eyes with the theatrical disdain of someone who'd been practicing that exact expression since childhood. The "oh God, not her again" performance, complete with the nudge to her friend and the conspiratorial whisper. I didn't shrink. I didn't look away. I gave her a small smile, not warm, not confrontational, just present, like someone who belonged exactly where she was standing. As I moved deeper into the room, I noticed something interesting. People were reading my name tag. Some squinted, others smiled faintly, a few whispered to their companions, who leaned in for a better look. My name, E. Winslow, wasn't famous, but in the right circles, it carried weight. And this was definitely one of those circles. I was reaching for a glass of water when I heard it. Alara Winslow? I turned, already half suspecting the voice. Celia Whitmore stood before me, looking exactly as I remembered but somehow more composed, more regal. Her navy gown was beaded at the cuffs, her hair styled to showcase the kind of bone structure that suggested generations of good breeding. When she saw me, she froze. Her expression shifted from recognition to something like awe, and she said, in a voice that carried perfectly across the suddenly quiet space around us, "That's her." The words rippled through the nearby guests like a stone dropped in still water. Heads turned, conversations paused. The phrase was repeated in whispers, "That's her." I felt Sienna's presence behind me, felt the way her body stiffened as she realized what was happening. She'd heard it, she knew exactly what was coming, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. "You're the founder of EWC, Celia continued, her voice gaining strength and warmth. "The mobile labs, the literacy clinics, the school rescue fund. You're that Winslow." "I am," I said simply. Her smile deepened, becoming radiant. "I never forgot your speech in Denver. I told my husband afterward, that woman is changing things quietly. I wish more people were paying attention." What she said next made my chest tight with something I hadn't felt in years, pride that someone else could see. "Your team's work in Junction County, my nephew teaches there. He told me about a girl who built a solar panel model from your lab kits, said it changed the entire classroom atmosphere. Kids who used to skip school are now begging to stay after hours." I was stunned into stillness. "I had no idea it reached your family." "It did, and now I'm thrilled to see you again. I'd love to introduce you to a few people tonight, if you're willing." As Celia gestured me toward the main ballroom, I caught one last glimpse of Sienna. She stood frozen by the champagne tower, her too bright smile cracking like ice in spring. One of her friends leaned in with a question, and I saw panic flash across her eyes as she replied too quickly, too desperately. A man near us asked Celia, "Wait, is that the Winslow from the Pine Ridge program?" "That's her," Celia confirmed, and there it was again, those two words that changed everything. The evening unfolded like a dream I'd never dared to have. Guest after guest approached me with genuine warmth and curiosity. They referenced projects I'd nearly forgotten, quoted impact numbers from reports I'd thought no one read. Some asked how I'd started, others asked how they could help. No one asked if I was Sienna's sister. That alone was a kind of freedom I hadn't tasted before. Throughout the night, I caught glimpses of Sienna hovering near small clusters of people, trying to reclaim the easy confidence she'd always commanded, but something had fundamentally shifted. Her laugh was too forced, her smiles too delayed. The people she tried to impress were now looking past her, their eyes trailing toward me. I didn't need to gloat, I didn't need to explain. The truth was doing all the talking. As the evening wound down, I made my way toward the exit. I wasn't planning to stay long, this wasn't really my crowd, and I had work to do tomorrow, but just before I reached the coat check, I heard a voice behind me. "Alara." The weight in her voice didn't come from familiarity, it came from fury. I turned. Sienna stood a few feet away, her arms rigid at her sides. Her makeup was still perfect, but the muscles in her face were twitching like she was holding back everything she wanted to scream. "You planned this, didn't you?" she hissed. "You waited until the perfect moment to walk in here and steal the entire room." I tilted my head. "I was invited." "You knew she'd be here, Celia. You knew she liked you. You used her." "I didn't know anything," I said, my voice steady. "I just showed up like anyone else on the guest list." Sienna gave a bitter laugh. "Don't act innocent, Alara. You always pretend to be above everything, so humble, so generous, but deep down, you crave attention like the rest of us, don't you?" "No," I said simply, "I crave impact." "That's different." She blinked like the word stung. "You never used to be like this." I almost laughed. "That's funny, because I think I've always been like this. You just never bothered to see it." Something in her faltered for a second, just long enough for the mask to crack. Then her eyes narrowed again. "Do you know what it's been like trying to explain who you are to them? You don't fit. You don't look the part. You make people uncomfortable." "That's not my problem," I said quietly. "That's yours." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You could have stayed in your lane, but instead you had to show up and embarrass me." "No," I said. "What embarrassed you was the truth. And it's not new, it's just louder now." We stood in silence, the clink of glasses and distant string music the only sounds between us. She took a step closer, and I saw the desperate cruelty that had always been her last resort. "I don't care how many people think you're impressive. You're still the same girl who sat alone at lunch, the one no one wanted around." I met her gaze steadily, "And yet here I am, invited, welcomed, respected, without pretending to be someone I'm not." That landed. I could see it. Sienna's mouth opened, then closed. Her shoulders fell slightly, she looked away first. I stepped forward, not with anger, but with clarity. I didn't come here to ruin your night. I didn't even come for you. I came because the work matters. And apparently, some people in your world actually recognize that. I told them you were small, she said, her voice quieter now. You weren't supposed to show up like this. I know, I said, but the thing about truth is it doesn't need permission. With that, I turned and walked away. She didn't call after me. As I approached the front lobby, Celia appeared again, gracefully extracting herself from a circle of donors. When she saw me, her face lit up. Slipping out? She asked gently. I think I've done what I came to do. I think so, too, she said, then added, I hope we'll talk more soon. There's space at the table for women like you. She squeezed my hand with the kind of quiet strength that doesn't need applause to be felt. Outside, the air was cool and cleansing. My car pulled up, and as I stepped in, I didn't look back. That chapter, whatever it was, had written its last line. The ride home was quiet, no music, no messages, no mental replays, just the low hum of tires on pavement and a kind of stillness I hadn't felt in years. I sat with my hands folded, letting the silence settle around me like a soft blanket. There was no need for fireworks, no imaginary applause, no revenge fantasy playing out in my head, because what happened tonight wasn't about Sienna, it was about me. For most of my life, I'd moved through rooms like I was asking permission to exist. I'd spent years hoping someone would finally turn around and say, hey, we see you now. But tonight, when Celia said, that's her, something in me shifted. Not because she said it, but because I already knew it was true. The moment wasn't about being discovered, it was about being confirmed, and strangely, that made all the difference. I used to imagine what it would feel like to be in a room where my name meant something, not because of who I was related to, not because of where I came from, but because of what I built. Now I know, and now I also know I don't need it. Recognition is nice, but it isn't purpose, and what I built, slowly, quietly, far away from the noise, is purpose. As the car pulled up to my apartment, I stepped out feeling lighter. I walked up the steps without hesitation, without looking back, without wondering what Sienna was thinking. I closed the door behind me and exhaled. My place was small, warm, filled with books and photos that meant something real, not curated memories, not highlight reels, just truth, people, impact, moments that didn't need a filter to matter. I brewed tea and watched the steam rise, letting my muscles finally relax. The air was quiet in the right way, not empty, just full of peace. And I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who stayed home while everyone else went to Sienna's recital, the one who didn't get invited, who didn't get asked, who kept doing the work anyway. What would I say to her now? I think I'd just sit beside her, let her know she wasn't invisible, let her know that every time she stayed true to herself, she was writing the story we're living now. Sienna's version of the past no longer belongs to me, and I don't need to edit it. Let her say what she wants. The people who matter saw the truth with their own eyes, and more importantly, so did I. I didn't walk into that ballroom looking for redemption, I walked in already whole. So when Celia said, that's her, the room may have heard it for the first time. But me, I've been saying it for years. That's her, that's me. Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you in next video.